So crazy how much stuff out there in the spiritual marketplace is just beliefs. How many people, how many spiritual people who have their spiritual YouTube channels and their spiritual content, courses, podcasts, all of this stuff are literally just selling you beliefs. It's actually crazy when you start to wake up to this and you start to see, hey Adam, you start to see what these perhaps well-meaning people, I don't know, who have all this fantastical information to tell you about what's going to happen in 2026. I'm seeing a lot of videos like that already. Global meltdown, the burning of America, the end of the West, and oh, well, I got this channeled information from this, and astrology is telling me this, right? And I'm sensing it in my heart. I'm getting visions that this is going to happen, right? And on and on and on, esoteric teachings, etc. And it's not just that. It's not just the prophecies. It's just spirituality in general. It sounds like these people know what they're talking about because they've been at it for a while. They've been doing podcasts for a while. They're studying things. But really at the end of the day, what it comes down to is just people sharing with you what they believe. And the fact that it is a belief really means that there's a level of uncertainty in it that they don't know. I was even listening to a person on TikTok, came across my feed, was talking about enlightenment, and I was like, yeah, and I agreed with some of the stuff he was saying. And then in the end, he goes, yeah, but he was talking about like if you end your life, if you unalive yourself, then you're gonna get the karma, and then you're gonna have to come back in the next life with this on your hands, with this karma on your hands. But it's like, you don't actually know that. You just read that in a book. Somebody told you that. Your teacher told you that. And it was just repeated time and time again. And then that just became a belief. And modern day spirituality, and really ancient spirituality, is just beliefs. And when we look at what a belief really is and what the purpose of it is really, it's like it's a coping mechanism for the mind. It's like a story that the mind tells itself to reassure it that everything's going to be okay. Let's take Christianity, for instance. There's a all-knowing, intelligent being who is the representative of unconditional love, and you can speak to him, you can pray to him, and he's going to have your back. He's going to be there for you, right? And sometimes, and then it's like, well, does that really work out? Because sometimes he's there for me and other times he's not, but it makes me feel good to know that I can pray to something, that I can have my will enacted by some higher being, right? But what's actually happening is it's just perpetuating the ultimate belief, which is the belief in the mind. The belief that the thoughts that are appearing in the head is what you are, and that those thoughts need to be managed by a belief that says there's a loving God out there, or if you do good, good will come back to you, right? Forces of karma, and creating all of these metaphysical concepts. And I'm not saying that it's all just complete, made up, even though a lot of it is made up, really, because it's all coming from words. So the point that I really want to hit home here, just to open up, is that your beliefs are not going to save you, okay? Human beings have this idea, and, it really comes down to the fact that we have challenging thoughts in our mind. We have fearful thoughts that are playing out internally. And we feel like those thoughts are real and that we're actually threatened by them because they generate an uncomfortable sensation in the body, and they spin stories, right, that are based on the past, that something's going to happen in the future, right? So that's really the first, like the entry level problem. But then spirituality comes on top of that and says, oh yeah, in order to cope with all of that, here's a bunch of beliefs. Here's a bunch of things that you can do so that you can change your thinking. And now instead of believing in the devil or believing in the darkness, now you're believing in the light. And now you're more spiritually evolved. And now you're going to be safe and you're going to be protected, right? But it's only just a story that's playing out, right? Anytime you go into the future is happening in thought, is happening in words, therefore is a story, right? So this reliance that we have on beliefs is just the mind layering more thoughts on top of an already disordered mind in order to cope with the lies, with the delusions that are happening in words that the mind is telling you. So it's just saying, oh, well, just replace those delusions with positive delusions and then you'll be fine, right? Don't believe that, believe this, right? But the thing is that you're still just basing your sanity, your level of fulfillment on a temporary thought or temporary thoughts or concepts, right? And concepts are only real in thought, only real because they happen in words. But words are all made up. Okay? Any word is just going to be defined and understood through more words. It's just an echo chamber of symbolic sounds, right? That we've given meaning to. And then we give a reality to that. So it winds up being this whole hamster wheel this whole hamster wheel of beliefs and words and thoughts and seeking, right? Seeking. And you're like, oh, well, I'm going to start now I'm into spirituality. Now I've taken on all of these new beliefs. Ooh, interesting, right? If I do this, then the universe will do this, right? Then I can get this. Then I will feel this way, right? But where is that happening? It's only happening in thought. It's only happening in words, right? If it was happening, if somehow you hit your head and you woke up and all of a sudden all of your thoughts were in the Russian language and you don't speak Russian, then would those sounds have any meaning? No, of course not. They only have meaning because we've gone through a learning process of knowing and associating meaning with each of those sounds. But there's no inherent meaning to it, right? And so we're searching for this inherent meaning through something that is ultimately meaningless, something that is ultimately man-made, right? It doesn't mean it's not helpful, it doesn't mean it's not a tool. But when we're talking about connecting or being or seeing through the delusion of separation, well, we first need to realize where that's happening. And where that's happening is through the experience of words, right? You say you're searching for truth. Well, in order for truth to be real, there has to be false. But both true and false are just made up words, right? Just in this very moment, if you take away the words, what is true, what is false? Is there anything missing from this moment? You mean for yin there has to be yin, there has to be yang? No, I'm saying both of those are made up, right? What's here without the concept of yin and yang? It's a beautiful concept, and it has its application, right? We can see the masculine and the feminine forces playing out in many ways, but it's also a mental construct. So what I'm talking about is moving beyond all mental constructs in order to awaken. We can call it that, but there really is no person that awakens. It's really just seeing through the delusion of words, of concepts, of language. So yeah, I really like your question, Bruce Wayne. Wow, are you the real Bruce Wayne? Because yeah, I'm an astrologer, and so I do connect to, the elements and all of the different archetypes that we can see. But it's still just a categorization of mind, right? It's still just meeting you at the thought level, right? And it can be helpful, these constructs, to organize reality. But what are you without language right now? If you just unlabel everything, what's left? What's left without the words? What's left without the labels? Because so many people on this spiritual journey are searching for what they've called the truth, or the higher self, or the consciousness, the self, insert spiritual terminology here. Hi, John. Nice to see you. Searching for that through a concept, and that's why spirituality can feel so frustrating, because it's just a dog chasing its tail, because the mind is searching for it through the mind. But the mind is just made up. The thoughts are just made up. The thoughts are only coming to you because of the past, right? Every word that you know is remembered because you had learned that, what that word meant from before. Right? So the mind tries to use the past in order to find the truth of now. But the good news is that the truth of now is always here. It's just not going to be found through a thought. Thank you, Bart. It's not going to be found through a concept. It's actually so simple, what I'm pointing to right now. So very simple. And that's why it can feel complicated, because we're so used to trying to understand things through the mental realm. But what I'm saying is, what are you without the mental realm right now? What are you without concepts right now? Isn't waking up direct empirical experience with the tapestry of life from the source within? With the tapestry of life from the source within. I mean, that's too many words. Beautiful words, but it's not like a belief that I'm having to say, like a tapestry of life with the source within. Well, where is the source within? Is the source within different from the sky or from a tree? We imagine that there's some being inside, maybe located in the head, that's looking out of my eyes, that's receiving the sounds from the ears. the supreme being, Advaita, it speaks about the, everything is unreal except the supreme being. Well, what is that? That's just another word defined by more words. What's here that's not a word? Stop looking in concepts for what's already here. Stop searching through language in order to find the ineffable. What I'm pointing to can't be spoken of, but it's always just this. It's not separate from the direct moment that you're in right now when you're looking at your phone, when you're listening to me and going about your day. Thoughts are appearing in the mind, feelings are coming up in the body, right? Different situations are coming, different people are coming, different cravings, there's all these things that are appearing. And then we imagine that they're appearing to a someone, right? This invisible spirit. But what are you without the word invisible spirit right now? What are you without the word soul right now? Because what I'm talking about doesn't have a location. It doesn't have a form. It's not something that you can grasp. It transcends real and unreal. It transcends all logic. It transcends all words, all language. There's nothing to know. It's just the directness of what's happening, and even that is saying too much, right? When you go within, you become aware of geometrical patterns. That is empirical. Okay, maybe you do, but who does? Who is the one that becomes aware of geometrical patterns? Everything is happening first in the mind. When I speak about mind, I mean like thought. So, you hear a sound, or this raw sound, and then immediately the mind goes, oh, that's a dog barking, or that's a bird singing, or that's my mom, right? The thought comes after, the interpretation comes after. It puts a label on something, and if I was Russian, it would say that in a different bunch of sounds. Putting everything in a box with an I am. Yeah, the great I am, right? But who is the I? If you go right now to your direct experience of I, what is I in this moment? What is I right now, without referring to anything that you've learned before? Can you find it? Who is the one even looking for the I? I don't know what's going on here. And it can feel like it starts to get confusing when you take the words away. But that's just another thought. Because it's only confusing for thought that's looking for a clear, defined explanation. So what are you without your explanations right now? What are you without your beliefs right now? What are you without time right now? Take away time right now. What's left? Where's you? Is there anything missing from this moment? And if there's nothing missing, then what are you seeking for? Thoughts keep rushing in. Good. Good that you see that, and you see that you're not choosing that, right? You see they're just coming to you. So how could you have free will if you don't even know what your next thought is going to be, if you can't even start or stop your thoughts? Thoughts keep rushing in, right? Feelings rush in. Hunger cues, instincts, desires. It's all just appearing in this emptiness. And when you look for the one who those thoughts are rushing into, what will you find? Because you will likely find thoughts that say, I want this. Okay. That thought is for an I. It says I. We assume, oh, I. That must be me. I say I. The thought says I. That must be me, right? But how can it be you if you're not actually choosing it? How can that be your voice if you're not actually the one that is creating that thought purposefully? You're just finding it in you. And this is the trick that the mind is playing on us, even though there really is no mind, even that's a concept, but I'll say the thoughts are playing on us, because the thoughts say I. And so, yeah, okay. Yeah. You know, it's kind of like, I don't know, with little kids or even with adults and stuff, you tell them, like, you can tell them what they like. Like, oh, you like this, right? Or you don't like this. And sometimes they listen to you, sometimes they don't. But if you kind of say it enough, it kind of can get in someone's head. And they're like, oh yeah, I like that. But it's just a story.